12 Drummers Drumming, performed by Edward Baker. The final morning of Midwinter rose with a strange pallor, a colorless effulgence that neither resembled sunlight nor moonlight, but something caught between the epochs, as the sky itself seemed to have forgotten which world it belonged to. The villagers of Marrowbone trudged toward the central square with the exhausted obedience of beasts led to the last labor of their season. 11 days of rites had hollowed them, scraped them thin, carved out of their faces the indifference between duty and despair. But the 12th day was older than despair, older even than hope. It was the day the village made its loudest plea for Skelmarok's continued slumber. "12 drums waited in the square, arranged in a perfect circle around the crude stone dais where the first supplicant had once begged the antlered god for mercy in an age no one remembered clearly. The drums were massive, each as wide as a well's mouth, their frames carved from the pale marrow-stained timbers of the gallows tree after its great split a century ago. And their skins, their skins were stretched so taut that they gleamed with an uncanny luster, a sheen that resembled neither leather nor cloth. Few spoke aloud of their making, fewer still admitted the truth. The drums were dressed in several generations' worth of Marrowbone's own fallen. The skins harvested in the oldest manner, treated with herbs and salts now forgotten elsewhere in the world. Each 12th day, a new layer was added. The chosen drummers, 12 villagers selected during the previous midwinter, approached the circle with blank, solemn faces. Their feet dragged, their eyes were rimmed red. Their hands quivered as they reached for the bone mallets laid before each drum. They did not wear ceremonial garb. The rite required naked truth. A few remained clothed from waist to shoulders, but their arms were bare. Their veins stood out like blue cords beneath the skin, as if already straining against something unseen. The sky dimmed unexpectedly, the pale effulgence smothered by creeping umbral clouds. The dark star, the one that had first winked awake on day one, had grown brighter, hungrier with each passing ritual. It hovered just above the distant tree line. Its presence warped the air beneath it. Birds avoided that part of the sky. Snowflakes that drifted close to its radius dissolved mid-air, vaporized as though they struck a surface. As the villagers formed a ring around the drummers, the first of the borrowed skins trembled. It always did before the rite began. A subtle shudder ran along its surface, like the twitch of an animal waking from drugged sleep. Some swore they heard faint groans emanate from within the drums, as though the layers remembered their former shapes. The time had come. Without command, the 12 drummers threw back their heads and struck the first blow. The synchronized impact reverberated with punishing force. A thunderclap pressed into a confined space. The ground trembled. The wooden frames groaned. The skins, those awful amalgamations of centuries of sacrifice, flexed and rippled, absorbing the blow with the pliancy of living muscle. The second strike followed, then the third, and then the fourth. At first, the rhythm was ordinary, loud and brutal, ritualistic. But as the drummers lost themselves to the cadence, the pounding grew more fevered, more frantic, more desperate. The mallets blurred in their hands, their wrists snapped back and forth at unnatural angles. Blood began to seep from the blisters forming on their palms, streaking the bone mallets into red arcs. The drums drank it. The villagers watched, transfixed, as the 12th rhythm built into a maddened crescendo. In earlier years, the pounding had always eased the tremors beneath the soil, coaxing the god back into slumber. But today the earth responded differently, heaving upward in sluggish, bulging swells, as though something titanic strained upward beneath the crust. A skittering sound, faint and insectile, chitin on bark echoed from the bordering woods. Most of Marrowbone pretended not to hear it. A few clasped their hands over their ears. Children buried their faces in their mothers' coats. The sound did not stop. It multiplied and split into dozens of smaller, clattering voices, each one joining the next in a cacophony that encircled the square. Something was moving in the timberline. Many somethings. The drums intensified, their skins bulging outward with each strike, distorting as though something beneath them attempted to push free. One drum split, not with a tear but with a blooming rupture, like a flower, unfurling its petals of stretched, pallid flesh. A writhing darkness spilled out, wriggling like worms exposed to light. The drummer responsible for that skin collapsed as though his bones evaporated inside of him. His mallet clattered away. Blood poured from his ears. The remaining 11 continued as if deaf, as if blind, their arms swinging with suicidal commitment. The dark star pulsed. The sky thinned. And the sphere pulsed once more. It burst into view with a sudden, vertiginous whirl, hanging where the sun should have been. Its swirling glyphs blazing throughout shifting mists of impossible geometry. Inside its surface, one could glimpse cities built on inverted mountains, a restaurant and a back alley with no discernible exit. Oceans that rolled upward into purple voids, what looked to be some kind of research facility on the top of a snowy mountain peak. Creatures that swam through nebulae like fish in a pond. A halo of burnt orange starlight flickered around it. The dying star at its core, exhaling its last breaths into the world of man. The drumming faltered. The watchers in the woods chittered louder. The earth cracked, and Skelmarak stretched beneath the village. The god's presence pressed through the layers of soil, pushing ridges of earth upward until the cobblestone split and buckled. The villagers screamed. Some fled, some fainted, some fell to their knees. The drummers continued until their arms snapped from the shoulder like brittle twigs. One of them still tried to raise the mallet with his broken limb, mouth opened in a soundless howl. From the widening crevices in the earth, a noxious wind billowed upward, cold, metallic, smelling of distant stars and forgotten aeons. The chittering rose into a deafening chorus, and then the sky tore. Not with lightning or fire, but with the slow ceremonial parting of a curtain drawn by indifferent hands. Through the rent, the villagers glimpsed the antlered silhouette, taller than mountains, broader than the horizon. Skilmarok, the slumbering crown, stirred from his aeon-long dream. His antlers branched into constellations. His eyes glowed with the dim, ruinous light of extinguished galaxies. His form bent and coiled like a serpent entwined with a stag, a cathedral of bone and sinew and cosmic decay. The drums burst simultaneously. A wave of blood and shredded skin washed outward in a perfect circle, knocking the nearest villagers off of their feet. The drummers were reduced to formless crimson heaps at the feet of their instruments. The earth roared, and the sphere spun faster, its glyphs thrashing like trapped stars. The antlered god opened his mouth, or the vast approximation of a mouth, and the sky rang with a sound like the cracking of the world's spine. The final ritual had failed. Or perhaps it was a slow unraveling. And Midwinter belonged to Skilmarok once more. The chittering in the woods became a grating caterwaul. The void sun bloomed, and the last light of the old sun died, swallowed whole by the god who had waited so patiently beneath Marrowbone village, beneath the world. Merry Christmas, everyone.